A disturbance in the Force. His name is Shizor. He's the evil underlord of a criminal organization called Black Sun, and he's out to destroy Darth Vader. The target of the two battling supervillains is Luke Skywalker. Vader wants Luke captured alive so that he can turn him over to the dark side. But Shizor is already plotting Luke's death. Now Luke's life and his mission to rescue Han Solo are in jeopardy. He and his friends must run for their lives from the galaxy's darkest forces. Both new and old Star Wars fans will be eager to read this brand new, never-before-told adventure set between the Star Wars trilogy films The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Hello, younglings, and welcome to Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Levi Paratic. With me, as always, Tim May.
Hello, everybody.
And today, returning again for the second week of for the show, foe of the show, Dan May.
An enemy.
Dark greetings.
Dark greetings.
Dark greetings. Now, you might hear that and you're like, ooh, is this a Jedi Prince episode? No.
No, it's a shadowy episode.
Shadowies? Yeah, no. We're going to talk about Shadows of the Empire, the junior novelization by Christopher Golden, adapted from the adult novel by Steve Perry. We'll talk about that in a bit. We were supposed to do it last week, and we'll talk about we'll wait till we get to the review to talk about how that has progressed in the week since.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, somebody's texting me. Shut up. Anyway, we talked last week, and I made a promise that we would me and Dan would watch the behind the scene, the most recent Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, that came out, and we did. And
well, here, before we get into that, a little bit of business. Just wanted to wish you a happy birthday, Tim.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I turned 30 yesterday, everybody.
Oh, congratulations. Welcome to the club.
No club. The club had me as a member, etc., etc.
You've been, let's be honest, you've been in a 30s mindset for a long time.
That's lowballing
it. 50.
The oldest young man I know.
Yeah. Right.
Your younger brother.
Yes.
So, but
did you do anything for your birthday?
We went to see the new Lupin the Third movie.
Okay.
It was showing at the movie theater, Fathom event, and it was a dang ass delight, is what I said at the very end of the movie. All Lupin the Third movies are fun. And there's the first CG one, which I was a little nervous about, but the animation is great. It's the best computer animated movie to ever come out of Japan, in my opinion. I don't think that's a high bar, to be fair, but it looks great. And what else? I didn't do tons. Oh, I went around a bunch of thrift stores, got some Star Trek novels, like a dang ass freak.
Oh, nice. That reminds me. Have you ever been to Market Square in Kecksburg, Ohio?
I have not.
Okay, no, it's not Kecksburg. Oh, Kinsman.
Okay.
Yes, because they were flush with Star Trek books. So it's actually
how far is it?
Not a. It's 9 miles from Jamestown. So if you were to go visit Zach friend of the show who will never be on the show, Zach, go there with him, and it was there. I couldn't believe how many there were, like how many Star Trek books there were.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
I bought some stuff there.
Well, text me the name of that place later. Not now, because it'll show up on the audio of this show. Friend of the show, Brooke White, is now foe of the show because he texted me during recording.
Oh, speaking of being a foe of the show and messing with the audio, I know that a lot of podcast listeners get really mad when somebody eats on air. Well, I'm a foe of the show, so it's tough shit. I haven't eaten all day. I'm having this oatmeal. Just throwing that out there. I'm trying to keep it away from Mike.
You have an oatmeal? That's like such an ASMR sort of meal.
God, we're going to go from 80 listeners to 8 overnight. These dang ass freaks.
You really think your listeners are actually
People get so mad about this thing, Dan.
Well, you can edit it out if you really think that it's going to offend people that I'm having my first meal of the day at 5 in the afternoon.
Oh, it's fine. Relax. God. Okay.
Was it a stressful day at work today, Dan?
Yeah. It's getting a little bit better. Those of you that don't know, I'm a teacher. I started my job this year on Monday. It was our first week back with students, and our building is under construction, and they're installing new ventilation and doing a lot of remodeling. So half the rooms are offline. And I am pushing a cart around to 5 different rooms over the course of our 2 days.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, we have an A-day, B-day schedule, and I do not have a classroom. So it's great.
Well, I wish you luck. Hope the kids don't give you a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough for them as well. So And the first day, it was like, do the right thing hot in there. And it was just, so nobody was having a good time.
It started to cool off the last couple of days.
Yes, it has. I've been outside, working outside for the past 2 weeks, and that last week was...
Oh my God! Well,
very bad.
Let's talk about some Star Wars stuff.
Disney Gallery... the Mandalorian, making of the finale, season 2 finale.
So I just want to say, I love these. We talked about the first season back whenever those came out, and I love behind the scenes stuff, as the listeners know, and I find there's something very. This one in particular I thought was very impressive, and I think Levi is you're online. Okay. Oh
no.
Your image froze. I apologize to listeners. We're kind of trying out some new recording technology. No free ads for video conferencing tools that are very ubiquitous. Anyway, I find these are like some of the best, just behind the scenes stuff I've seen in a while. I mean, I think the best behind the scenes thing we've seen out of the last 5-7 years of Star Wars is still probably the doc on the Last Jedi Blu-ray, which is that reminds me of Alien Quadrilogy level, it's clear just everybody involved was we want to just be as raw and real as possible, which is just you miss that. You don't get that often.
Well, it's nice to have a feature documentary again, like how George did on the prequels. So
and
nice too.
There's all kinds of stuff like that. I do like these a lot, and if you put the first making of season 2 episode that came out last year and this together, it's like a feature doc basically. And I think the most interesting part of this was I felt like everybody was tacitly acknowledging that Luke doesn't look that good. Don't you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think everyone was well, we thought this was the right move for the story, and they stood behind the story choice. Absolutely. I don't think any of them were trying to, but they...
all seemed a little like, hey man, the technology's not all the way there, and maybe the technology shouldn't get all the way there because it's a potentially evil, like...
Yeah, I know. That was so funny when Favreau was just like, we need to have a way to, like, tell people if footage has been altered or not. Like, we have to have, like, an NFT level for footage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that. And also, too, they're just like, yeah, we tried it basically 3 different ways, including, like, you know, we did the airbrushing, the Scorsese style de-aging, they did the deep fake, and I mean, they didn't cover this, but did you hear the news that some YouTuber just got hired by ILM? Because he tweaked the deepfake footage that they did from the episode with his own deepfake, and they were so impressed by it that they hired him. Like,
wow.
So
I gotta say, like, the fact that it's like, well, this person's more skilled at this is encouraging, because when you hear just the raw information about what the technology is, you're like, so these fucking robots are just doing it? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, like, it's like, it actually does take skill to manipulate it the right way and all that shit. I get it.
Also, too, this was pointed out to me by the guy I work with. He also watched it, and he was like, yeah, I really got the impression that, like, they actually didn't need Mark Hamill at all. Like, there's no reason for Mark Hamill to actually even be there because it's not his voice and it's not his face.
Well, I think they, like, still used the voice thing. Yeah, that's a weird thing to me. I feel like they could have done it without that.
See, I feel like they still, like, took his... I feel like he still needed to be there to at least move his face so that they could put the new face on him. And then they take those lines and they feed it into whatever the program is, and then it pops out as young Luke.
I think the facial expressions are still essential because, like, what it does is then the computer, like, searches for similar facial expressions from all the different data they've entered or whatever. But as far as, like, the voice thing, I feel like even if, like, he couldn't quite get there naturally with a vocal performance, I feel like you could easily alter his voice to sound younger.
Yeah.
Like, digitally.
That being said, I don't think the voice is bad. Like, I thought the voice was really good.
When they replayed it after they said it, it's probably just like a power of persuasion thing, but, like, then it just felt fake to me.
I think I could tell after they said it, and I can see why they probably only gave Luke a few lines.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounded fine in the episode, but how much could you sustain that? I feel as if even the rise and fall of his, like, vocal cadence was stuff that they probably, like, you know, sourced from, like, all these interviews or whatever. And so I don't know how much actual nuance you could get in a whole vocal performance that way.
Well, to me, this is like they're just testing the waters, because I feel like guaranteed, like, now they have to do an episode with Luke. Like, a whole episode with Luke.
The last thing I want in my life. This is my whole thing. If they return to Luke and Grogu, do it as an animated series. I have no interest in seeing whatever this, like, pure digital character, because that's what it really is.
All right, I got it. We get Luke, we take him to the temple, then we have to introduce, like, a new character. What was the name of that Jedi who hung out with Anakin Solo, and what was her name?
Ikrit,
the girl.
Ikrit.
Oh, well, we could have an Ikrit character. I was talking about the female Jedi, the one who is obsessed with Star Wars artifacts.
Dan would know better.
Wait, hold on. What do you...
The person who runs the Jedi Academy with Luke in the EU.
Tion?
Yes.
Yeah.
We could introduce a new character that way, I guess. Yep. The true expert on the show. So
the only reason I'm here because in true Padawan library fashion, I did not read the junior novelization of Shadows of the Empire.
Oh my God.
But I am very familiar with the Shadows project and the 90s expanded universe.
All right,
real quick, let's talk about Plo Koon, the return of Plo Koon.
Oh, that was fun, and that was so clever on their part. Like,
great.
And like when Filoni explained it, I was just like, what a legend of misdirect, like a legendary trickster named Filoni.
I love that they show the screenplay too, and the screenplay goes, Jedi Master Plo Koon is somehow alive. Like, anybody who would read that would be like, wait a minute, he got obliterated. Like,
somehow. Plo Koon survived.
Yeah. Somehow the Emperor has returned. It's
That's
level.
what I saw it once. I don't remember the level.
But that was fun. And then Filoni talking about Favreau and R2, and Favreau talking about how he got emotional when R2 was on the set, and he was just like, "I can't explain it."
I appreciate the respect put on R2-D2's name after the endless disrespect that the merch side of Lucasfilm has put on his name for the last 7 years. It's ridiculous how little R2 merch there's been in the Disney era, because they want to just keep pumping up BB-8, who I like, but get out of here.
You want to know what? They just pumped up BB-8 even further. This is like the 50th anniversary of Disney World, and they have characters that are ambassadors to the 50th anniversary, and they were just like, and from Star Wars, I saw this announcement video, from Star Wars, our ambassador, the little droid that stole our hearts, BB-8. And I was just like, you make me sick.
Well, I actually approve that, because at least BB-8 was created under their stewardship. Right. Like, I hate when they're like, classic Disney character, Kermit the Frog. I was like, no, not a Disney character. So I don't want them to do that with Star Wars either. So if they want to make BB-8 their thing, that's fine. For the parks and stuff, it's fine. I don't even have a problem with BB-8. I like BB-8. I remember the first time the trailer came out for Force Awakens, I was blown away by the effect. I was like, that's insane. Like, it got me. That was like my favorite shot in the trailer. So yeah, no, like, I like BB-8, but never at the expense of R2, who will always be smarter, more resourceful, and so much cuter than BB-8. Like, I just think he's anyway.
So yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. I just wanted to talk about the Plo Koon thing with you guys.
I'm glad we watched it.
There are lots of like great moments where it's a lot of what Favreau doesn't say. I think is very interesting. Like when he talks about how great it is to have Luke Skywalker back on screen. You know, I feel like he kind of like hastily amends that and says, well, on a television show.
Yeah, I know, right?
And I feel like there's just some subtlety there that I appreciate. And that's all I'll say, because Tim's getting uncomfortable.
Which, this is the first time in these Disney Gallery things they've actually shown a clip from the sequel trilogy. And there was the one to reveal like various voice cameos that Mark Hamill's done. Tim, did you recognize your Lego character?
Bulio himself, yeah.
Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, listen to last week's episode.
So anyway, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's just like there's all these stupid idiots that have like these insane conspiracy theories about what really goes on in Lucasfilm.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm not on the internet. This is as close to like interacting with people through the internet that I ever get. I don't know about that stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying. He also had to like go out of his way to praise Kathleen Kennedy because of these stupid idiots that think that she like doesn't want Mandalorian to be good or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's so stupid. And then also
I'm the head of this company, but I don't want our flagship thing to be good. Like, what?
Yeah. And not only that, I saw this one stupid headline that was just like, Disney really wants Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker, but they need Mark Hamill's permission. And I'm like, that ship has sailed. They've already made their choice. Yeah, they've already made their choice. They're sticking with Mark Hamill.
Also,
put your money on LeVar Burton. Like, that's a better choice for getting what you want than Sebastian Stan. It's not happening.
Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about.
The LeVar Burton Jeopardy thing, I feel like LeVar Burton has a better chance of getting the host job on Jeopardy than Sebastian Stan has of being Luke Skywalker. So,
well, yeah, at this point, at least it's an open job again. Regardless, I think. Well, as far as the Sebastian Stan thing, I don't know, but like. I find they certainly don't need Mark Hamill's permission to do anything with Luke Skywalker.
No, they don't. They really don't.
Lucas never needed permission to do anything. Like, if he wanted to recast Luke in a Star Wars movie in 1993, he could have done that if he wanted to do that. Hamill has no legal right to anything about. I'm sure he's been paid very well for these last few movies.
Like I said in the text, Favreau, he's all about respect. That's what Favreau is all about. But
this is so weird. This conversation. I personally don't honestly want them to continue anything with Luke unless it's animated. I think it would look bad.
Probably, yeah.
I think it would be a bad idea.
Because I feel like you go down a slippery slope that way, like a real slippery slope. It can go, it could get out of control real quick then. Because then it's like, well, then what other characters are you, are these actors, forever indebted to being, resurrected once they die?
Yeah,
sort of thing?
I think for a cameo like this, I think it's totally fair. Whether it's Sebastian Stan or not, because he's famous, but I do think if they ever wanted to do another live action thing where a younger version of Luke Skywalker was prominently featured beyond a cameo, then they should recast.
We'll get that in Obi-Wan probably.
Hamill said that.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Hamill said that dude that played his body double in that scene was a good actor.
Yeah, you know what?
That guy looks a lot like him.
That guy looks like him, and I thought he looked like Hayden too. I kept mistaking him for Hayden on the set. I was like, damn, this guy is in the Skywalker family.
I didn't think there probably is going to be young Luke in Obi-Wan.
At least a boy Luke, a little boy. Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do? We'll have to see.
We'll see if Jake Lloyd has any kids and would like to come back to Star Wars.
So, I find...
I bought some shirts recently. I should have talked about this last week when we were talking about new items we have, but I get all these ads for Hot Topic, and they made these shirts that are kind of retro looking. So I got a shirt that has Episode 2 Anakin on it. And it's a close-up and then a full body. And then I got one that has Episode 1 Obi-Wan on it. The same thing. But they also have one of Jake Lloyd. I was shocked that they made a Jake Lloyd one of, young Anakin. So...
Well, he's still, the main, key art for the saga is still basically based on the original Episode 1 posters. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, what was I going to say?
I don't know. I know a Blu-ray needs to come out. That's all I got to say about Mando. We need a Mando Blu-ray, but...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's insane there isn't one yet. Maybe they're waiting for, the show to be over and we'll do a complete thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway...
Well, they haven't put out the final season of Clone Wars yet either, so... But I don't know. I don't think anything they've put out on Disney Plus has come out on...
Some of the movies have,
okay.
But I feel like there were movies that were I know Soul is out on physical media, but that was supposed to be a theatrical movie.
Yeah, thought that.
And Luca, the other Pixar movie. I don't know why Pixar is now straight to Disney Plus.
It's a mistake, in my opinion.
That hits the prestige.
I agree.
And they're still making good movies. It's stupid anyway. All right, so let's talk Shadows in a little bit. We'll take a break.
Okay, and then we'll just cover Shadows in
full.
The second half.
All right. Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Peretic.
Hello.
And Dan May, our guest.
Hey.
And this week we're talking Shadows of the Empire, a classic Star Wars object. This is something that anyone over a certain age, probably over 27, I would say is the youngest you could be, and for this to matter to you at all.
What year it came out? 95, right?
96.
96. So yeah, if you're 25, that means you were born in 96. Yeah.
So I feel 27 or 28 is the youngest you can be and have this matter to you.
Maybe a little, maybe a little Maybe a little younger to account for, people getting into it through older siblings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but to have it be this seismic part of your, like, the birth of your fandom.
Which it was pretty much for me. I mean,
let's talk about it. Every toddler had the buzz cut Chewbacca action figure come off.
Oh, duh, yeah.
So,
I swear I see that figure like in the wild more than I ever see like an actual Chewbacca figure. Like, I always see that buzz cut Chewbacca.
So for any of our slightly younger listeners, Shadows of the Empire was a multimedia project from Lucasfilm that came out in 1996 that was essentially, let's do everything we would do to tie into a movie release except make the movie. It was essentially a dry run for, I guess, the following year when they did the special editions, and more importantly for The Phantom Menace, in terms of how you would market a Star Wars movie in the 90s. So, and it was an original story that was developed by Lucasfilm and by various story departments, although primarily the novelist Steve Perry is the main guy. But it was developed, it takes place between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yes, it's like the movie that would be in between those. Is the way I view
the idea, anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
this resulted in toys, comics, novels, junior novels, trading cards, soundtrack, and a video game.
Yeah. Indeed, it literally everything you would do except the movie. So basically, it launches, and we're going to talk mostly about the junior novel today, but I just wanted to talk about the phenomenon. So it launches in April 1996 with the soundtrack is the first release, a score, a soundtrack album that was composed,
which I feel like is mostly composed for the video game.
A lot of the music is used in the game, but some of it's original.
Have you guys listened to it?
I listened to it many years ago.
It's interesting. It's not
because I know it riffs a lot on like the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack a lot. So
yeah, but it's like kind of there are more electronic elements, and so it's not just like trying to be a straight Star Wars score, which I think is kind of cool.
I need to listen. I'll actually listen to that soon. So. But also what's fun about this, I think the whole project is all the media projects of it, so the video game, the comic book, and the novel, all show different perspectives of the same story.
Right.
So
the novel is, and we'll get into it, the junior novel is essentially the same thing. But the novel tells the story primarily from Luke, Leia, and Vader's perspectives, and the villain Prince Chizor. But then the game is mostly from the original character. You play as Dash Rendar, who is a new character. We'll get into Dash, and the comic, I believe, is mostly about what the android woman,
Guri.
It's a little, there's a little bit of that.
I know there's Luke. I know Luke's involved in it, but I know the big storyline in that is Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's mostly
because Boba Fett in the comic, Boba Fett gets like attacked by all the other bounty hunters who are trying to capture Han Solo from him. So
yeah, a lot of those comics, the issues would come packaged with the action figures. That's how I was exposed to most of them.
Yep, that's where the why there's an IG-88 Shadows of the Empire figure. So, and that's actually I think where the Guri figure is too. She's in the comic book pack. Yeah. So, fun fact: I don't have the comic book packs, but I have all the 3 3/4 single figures of the series. So,
nice.
But
those are pretty easy Star Wars figures to find. Like the Power of the Force figures from '95. And then the Shadows line are among the most plentiful Star Wars figures. I feel like if you go to any toy store, you'll be able to find those.
You'll find at least one of them. Yep.
Yeah, you'll find some of that. Anyway.
I have a deep affection for those figures. Them and their steroided bodies.
So, yeah, the project kicks off in April of '96 with the soundtrack. The novel comes out in May of '96. And the comics miniseries begins in May also. Then in June, we get the source book for the West End Games RPG, which involves a lot of the lore and all that stuff. And the toy line comes out across that summer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then in August, this book, a behind-the-scenes book called Secrets of Shadows of the Empire by Mark Codavaz, or Codavaz, I apologize, this is a behind-the-scenes book that chronicles the whole project. This came out before the game, or like before some of the stuff even came out. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I thought it would have been after everything, but then the trading cards come out in September. The Topps trading cards, and then the comic ends in October. The junior novel comes out in October.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then the game is the final thing, released in November of '96 as a launch title for the Nintendo 64.
Right.
So,
very cool that was a launch title too.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like that.
What a great launch lineup that and Mario 64 did.
Yeah, I know that's I think very big, and I think that's what like really exposed a lot of children to the whole Shadows project is that video game.
I think it was the introduction for a lot of people our age to Star Wars. Probably was that game.
Yeah, I actually didn't wind up playing the game at the time. I've played it since, and I actually played it not too terribly long ago. It definitely looks like a launch title more than Mario Kart does.
And I also think too, it's very similar to Dark Forces video game in terms of it's like a Doom style video game. So this is like their second attempt at kind of this too. But I also think like the PlayStation's graphics were a little bit better in my opinion than the 64.
Not broadly, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
I mean, the 64 had way better graphics in general.
Anyway, we won't go into that, but I had a PlayStation.
I mean, it's objectively true, but
yeah, it's hardware power. It's actual computing power.
Yeah, individual games might have had worse graphics, but I would not say. Yeah, Ocarina of Time looks better than every single.
I do. From when I did play
but
Shadows,
you've never played any Nintendo games. You're a weirdo.
Yeah. But I do know when I did play Shadows, the part that I found the most stressful is the boss battle with IG-88.
Oh my god,
that is terrifying.
So bad.
Because you're on a junk planet and all the junk looks like him, so you're literally running in circles trying to get away from him, and he could be around any corner. It is so stressful.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I was talking about the game with friend of the show Sam McCauley just a few days ago, and he brought up the exact same thing.
It's the obvious thing.
It's that Terminator nightmare that you're being chased by a machine, like, and it doesn't tire, like, you know.
It's very
like,
Terminator. The whole level is extremely Terminator because you get into that incinerator part and it's wild. All right, well, let's get into let's put our cards on the table. So last week, if you guys didn't listen to the nonsense we put out last week, neither you, Levi, or I, Tim, had finished the book. Now, I'm not saying I had a good excuse, but I had an excuse in that I had found a faulty bootleg copy that did not have the second half of the book. That was on me. I should have looked something else up further ahead of time.
Yeah.
However,
and also in your defense too, I've never not finished reading a book up until this point either.
Indeed,
and I have the physical copy.
Neither have I. You had the physical copy, and you did not finish. You said last week.
What was that last book? Oh, that Aliens book. You know the.
Oh yes, there was that one. Yeah, well, that book. Who gives a shit? No one.
That book was great.
You forced that upon us,
and you had a great time. John Jarmusch. Ever hear of him? Legend. Actually, he's a canon. So
he is a canon. All right. Anyway, regardless, last week you claimed to have 30 pages left of this book. So we come into the record today, and I read the book earlier today in its entirety.
I do want to point out that It was never part of the deal for me to be on this episode for me to have read the book. So
I know.
Oh no, I'm just informing the listeners
Okay.
that like I have no share in any of this blame.
All right, it's true. Anyway, so yeah, what was I saying?
About the fact that I haven't finished the book.
Okay. Yes. Okay. You had 30 pages left a week ago.
Yeah.
I read the whole book today. You tell me when I get on, you're like, well, and I jokingly said, have you finished the book? Ha ha ha, thinking we're just going to have a good laugh about this. And you say to me, oh, I have 10 pages left. And I was like, how did this happen?
Well, I waited until this morning to read it. And I
you waited until hours before we recorded to read 30 pages.
Well, I woke up this morning. I woke up late. I get picked up for work, so I was like, I had a little bit of time to read it. Like after I got ready, I got about 15 pages in. Sure. Then I got picked up for work. Then I worked. Then my trailer was in the shop. And the guy called. It was finished, so I had to go pick that up. And as I'm unhooking it, I get a text. Oh, we're ready to record whenever you are. When you told me 4:30, and it was 4:06 when you guys were ready to record.
Oh,
so I was like, well, guess what? I'm not finishing this book.
To this excuse maker over here. All right, it's fine.
I actually don't like. I know how the book. I know what characters die. I will say I don't want to spoil.
Well, if you had 10 pages left, you basically got to the conclusion of the story.
I think Vader just shoots him out of the sky, if I remember correctly. So, but
right. Well, we okay, so you didn't even get to that. Okay, yeah. But we'll we should also let the listeners know we have both in the past read the adult novel.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very familiar with the story going into this experience. So you can participate in the conversation. I've read the book, a version of the story most recently of anybody on this podcast, so I guess I will be leading the convo. So let's get into it, because the junior novel also, I read good portions of The Secrets of Shadows of the Empire, the behind-the-scenes book, and the junior novel appears to not be mentioned at all.
That's hilarious.
So, I don't have the original book in front of me. I know it's somewhere in this house.
Well, I will say this, if we want to talk about Christopher Golden real quick. Christopher Golden is a New York Times bestselling author. He's still a very active author. He's done many of his own series. He did get his start in kind of this franchise property. He's done a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer books. And in Star Wars, he's only written, I want to say maybe 5 books. But he did this, and then he did the Choose Your Adventure books of the original trilogy. So.
Okay, I remember those. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I've read
the Empire one actually of those.
I've read the New Hope one.
I think we talked about this on an episode before.
I would love to actually cover some sort of Choose Your Adventure book on the show, but
we'll
your brother is so hesitant. So.
Oh, really?
I never. This is such fucking lies.
And also, too, there's actually new canon. There's new canon Choose Your Adventure books too.
Prove yet again that you're a liar. Just like when
not a liar.
Just like when you lied about having seen what's going on in Hollywood for a whole month.
I didn't lie. Face. I just didn't bring it up. I just never brought it up. It never came up in conversation.
To my face.
Okay. maybe I should get going, guys.
I wanted to bring it up because it's your favorite moment in the history of the show.
It's hilarious.
You talk about it all the time. I was like, I'll do a fun call.
It's not that I lied about it. I just didn't divulge that information to you. All right? It's not a lie. It may be a deception, but it's not a lie.
We don't need to get into it. That's okay. Anyway, let's talk about this book. I have not. Now, like I said, I don't have Shadows of the Empire, the original novel, in front of me, but this felt very much like it was just essentially an abridged version of that book. It did not. Yes. I'm sure it's rewritten to some degree, but there are not radical changes in terms of the story.
I agree, and I feel like the way this book is written is like a step above in terms of like quality of how it's written. I think it's a step above the Jedi Prince books, and also too, this is put out
a step above.
a step above. Not a one step, but it almost
Many
in the
steps.
same vein. Because
There's
some very goofy lines in this book.
Yeah, it's competently written, though. Those books are like impenetrable prose.
But whenever you look on the first page, not the first page, oh yeah, in the inside cover, because this is put out, is it by Bantam? Yeah, Bantam put these books out, yeah, they mentioned the Galaxy of Fear series and the Jedi Prince series.
Well, yeah, because those were the books that, yes, I agree that it's published by the same person. But I don't think it's, I don't know. It's...
There's some goofy stuff in here.
There's plenty of goofy stuff, but it's definitely, it's competently written. Those books are some of the most just batshit, first, draft written at 3 a.m., while on bath salts bullshit I've ever read in my life. All right, so...
No comment.
a classic Levi heretic experience, apparently. All right, so the way you said that, I mean, that's what you just implied to our listeners.
Oh, my
God. All right. So I wanted to say, this starts off, the first scene is the same as the first scene of the novel, if you guys have read it.
Yep.
Prince Shizor is observing the scene from Empire with Vader and the Emperor. And by the way, in the book, I doubt this is in the Steve Perry book. It literally says the second time Shizor's name is mentioned, in parentheses it says pronounced Shizor.
I assure you that is not in the original.
I appreciate. I mean, I knew how to pronounce it, but I appreciate the pronunciation. Although I feel like you could just have that in a dramatis personae prior to the beginning of the book, rather than putting it in the actual text.
Although there's nothing as like a 1990s expanded universe kid, there is nothing that will set me going as quickly as someone referring to that character as Prince Zizor.
Oh, it's
disgraceful.
Shizor.
Well, I think that's probably because kids had the action figure. They bought the action figure, and it didn't have the pronunciation on the bottom of the action figure.
Yeah, the action figures, that's a perfect place to put a pronunciation key.
Right below it. Pronounce
Actually,
Shizor.
Fun tidbit that I'm sure you guys know, but just in case any listeners don't, a little bit of trivia, Prince Shizor trivia. In the pod race sequence in episode 1, the majority of the wide shots of the crowd watching the pod race are just a bunch of Shizor action figures. Hilarious to me.
It is hilarious.
Incredible stuff.
A character who I think should be canon again, in my opinion.
I'm sure he will be.
His species are because they're in Clone Wars.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
And Black Sun is
and
canon.
Black Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into all of it.
There's many characters who I think should be brought up again. One in particular who is largely absent outside this book and one other book we've read. So.
Okay, we'll talk. Yeah, the one thing I had forgotten, kind of. I mean, I as soon as I remembered it, it was like, well, of course, the whole premise of this book wouldn't make sense if you didn't. But I had forgotten, kind of, that Shizor knew who Vader was. Which me and Dan brought this up in a recent conversation off mic, and I wanted to ask him, because we've always complained when there are people that know that Vader was Anakin Skywalker. Are you okay with it in this case because who Shizor is?
Yeah. The problem I have with it in a lot of books is there's a lot of later post-Jedi novels from the Legends era that kind of just assume that Vader's identity as Anakin Skywalker is a matter of public record. There's a series called the Black Fleet Crisis trilogy, which is pretty good, except for I find it irritating that Leia's political career is under attack because everybody knows that her father was Vader. Why? How do they know that?
There's a canon novel now, that came out a few years ago, written by Claudia Gray, in which Leia's political career winds up under attack because it is revealed
Right.
in reporting that her father is Vader.
Yeah.
Which I think is
That's fine.
compelling idea for a story, but the fact that it's like, yeah, I'm also not interested. I don't like it if it's like a matter of like everybody just knows who that.
It's just because it's just because there was never an explanation for it more than anything else. There was never a moment like the one you're talking about in Bloodline where like that happens. Yeah, there's but like there's a novel Tatooine Ghost by Troy Denning where like they go where it takes place way after Jedi and they go to Tatooine and like everybody's just casually talking about how Darth Vader used to live there. Like, why the hell do they know that?
Right.
But no, Shizor has reason to. He's the head of this elite criminal syndicate, Black Sun, and he's in good with the Emperor.
And he also has
they're known for their
vendetta.
spy network too.
He also has a vendetta against Vader, so he would have like motive to try to find out that.
Yeah, so that's fine. I have no problem with people knowing that Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader are the same
But just
guy.
not public knowledge. It's like it's weird if like the general public knows this is odd.
Yeah.
Because it's like I know in the Tarkin book it's handled where like Tarkin suspects that it's Anakin,
Right.
but like he's just like I think I might know who this guy is, but
I like that one. I love James Luceno. And it's a
He's
great classic where Palpatine's first name is revealed. So
yeah, I agree. Important book, very important book. Well, but that also reveals Tarkin's first name too, is Wilhuff, right?
no, that was a matter.
That's been known for a long
Oh,
time.
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I'm trying. I don't know. I wonder where that was first. It's probably in like one of the like West End Games source books from the 80s.
Okay.
I would guess.
Probably, yeah.
So anyway, Shizor observes the classic meeting between the Emperor and Vader, and he realized they mentioned Luke Skywalker, and he's just like, oh, I know Vader was Anakin Skywalker. That must be his kid. Like, I fucking hate Vader because he oversaw the destruction of my home city because of to help contain a plague. So his entire family was killed in this.
Right, and he escapes, and he has the record erased of this. And later in the book, too, when Vader finds out about this, that like about Caesar's family, Vader just says, a regrettable incident is something that he calls it. So Vader
He says it's a regrettable incident. He said sincerely.
Yes,
Which I thought was actually smart because this is close to the end for Vader. And so he is beginning to reevaluate what he's become.
His life
at
choices.
This time. So I actually think they handled that pretty well. His character, he's the best character in the book, I think. He has the most interesting stuff to do, Vader. So anyway, we then come across... So yeah, Shizor begins plotting, right? And then...
He's going to kill Luke Skywalker. That's
he wants to kill Luke and impress the Emperor, basically, and embarrass Vader. Then we see Luke building his lightsaber in Obi-Wan's shack. And I didn't really have time to look for it and dig it out, but isn't this scene, which was kind of based on a deleted scene from Return of the Jedi, wasn't this included in the Return of the Jedi novelization?
Ooh, it might have been. I'm not sure. It's definitely in the original Shadows novel.
Right.
I'm not sure if it is in the Jedi novelization, which I have read, but that was a long
I know
time
that
ago.
wasn't in, like, Obi-Wan's house, because you can watch the deleted scene on the Blu-ray.
It's like in a cave. Yeah.
It's in a cave, but
Yeah.
it's on Tatooine, anyway, so he's constructing it, and...
I also remember, too, the book going into detail as to where he got his kyber crystal at, and his kyber crystal just so happened to be some kyber crystals that Obi-Wan had lying around the house. But this book does not go into that, not into that far of detail.
In Legends, kyber crystals weren't the big...
They weren't. I know that's not the term, yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't like the big magical thing that they are in the new canon. So, like, they used focusing crystals to create the lightsabers, but it wasn't a matter of like some kind of you didn't have to go on like a vision quest to get
yes,
one.
you didn't have to go to Ilum to go get those crystals.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Love that arc and Clone Wars.
So it's a little less like implausible than maybe it sounds to people that are mostly familiar with the newer stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, basically, Luke is there on Tatooine because they're planning the Han rescue. But I'm actually blanking a little bit on why they wind up getting called away from Tatooine initially.
Because I want to say because Lando gets some information as to they figured out where Boba Fett is.
Oh yeah. And
Yes.
And so they get that information from Dash Rendar, who is old friend of Lando's, another scoundrel, and probably at the time the most popular new character from this book.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say?
Yo, definitely. His action, he had action figures. There was a trading card, the whole thing, and he's the main character of the video game.
He also had a ship too. I think there were 2 ships produced from this in terms of toy. Prince Caesar's ship, and then the Outrider, which is
a very cool ship.
It's a riff on the Falcon. It's also a Corellian fighter. So I think Dash Rendar is from Corellia too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's the hardest placeholder for Han Solo.
This is the funniest part.
I know what you're going to say because I have this mark too.
I have it written down here. There's an ending of a chapter where Luke and Dash have some sort of interaction. And
hang on, I could just read it for you because
I have it written down.
Okay.
They have some sort of interaction. Dash says something quippy, and then it goes back to kind of Luke's inner monologue, and it says, and this is the end of the chapter. This guy did remind him an awful lot of Han Solo.
Yeah, because Luke is like trying to get Dash to come with him, and Dash is like, I'm all about money. And then Luke is just like, well, I'm sure the Alliance would reward you if you got this information for them. And then he caves.
Some fun stuff about Dash. I've always thought that Dash, like in most art of him, looks pretty much exactly like Cable from the X-Men comics.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's got the shoulder pad.
Yup. And like a big gun and like, improbably wide shoulders and like that whole like 90s comics look. Mm-hmm. But there are pretty much no 2 representations of Dash Rendar that are exactly alike. They vary widely. If you seriously, if you're interested in this, go on Wikipedia, look up Dash Rendar, and just scroll through the page and look at the images of him. They are all substantially different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it does it in the video game too. Dash has a co-pilot, right? A droid.
That's right.
Who is not mentioned in this book at all. And
isn't he?
No, and I don't.
He might be in the novel.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so. We met Dash previously in a Galaxy of Fear book, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm. We sure did.
And we had a long conversation about him then, about how it's kind of weird, considering that he was a pretty popular character at the time, that he was barely used after Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I like him. This is a type of Star Wars character I just always kind of enjoy, but I get it to some degree where it's like, well, we already got Han and we got Lando. We don't really need Dash. And Dash was also imposed upon the project by the publisher because they're like, well, you need a Han Solo-like figure. And I'm like, you have Lando Calrissian.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's, who knows? I don't want to.
Yeah.
But who knows what motivation might have been there, unfortunately. But as far as when they go and meet, I should say, but was Dash the guy you were referring to earlier that you wanted?
Yes, Dash is the guy I'm referring to.
They might as well bring him back.
And his droid sidekick, his co-pilot, L.E. BO2D9, is in the novel, and it says on Wikipedia that he is mentioned in this book, but I don't think he is. I don't recall any mention of this character at all. So.
You should edit that page then and do a service to the community.
I should do that. I'll have to remember my login for the website. That'll be the hard part.
So when they get to the Rebel base, because they're gonna go hunting Boba Fett, we run into one of my favorite characters, Wedge Antilles.
And I have a bit marked here too.
Okay, I do too.
Okay, let me do this one. All right.
I hope it's not the same one.
This is from the beginning of chapter 3. This is Wedge. Hey Luke, welcome to the end of the galaxy. Hey Wedge, how's it going, buddy? Luke called. So, another day, another credit. Before taxes, of course, Wedge replied with a laugh.
Yeah, I pointed this out too. So is the Rebel Alliance a rogue organization that has no formal governing body taxing people?
That's what it sounds like.
Or is Wedge paying taxes to the Empire?
That's what it sounds like. He's getting a paycheck and he is paying taxes. So
I somehow doubt that could possibly be the state of affairs at this point in the timeline. That'd be a great quip for him in one of the X-Men novels.
Unless he is like paying his Imperial taxes still. Like he's like, I gotta fly under the radar. The Alliance is still like, guys, you still have to pay your taxes, or else the Empire has a reason to come after you. Like
that's possible, I suppose. But you wouldn't want to tax income from the Alliance.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to claim that on your taxes.
Anyway. All right, so the other thing is, there was a big hoopla a few months ago because a Lego set came out of Boba Fett's ship, Slave One, where it is not referred to as Slave One on the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Boba Fett's ship.
Starship.
Yep. Fine. People freaked out about this. Little babies, relax. You can still call it Slave One. No one's forcing you to not say Slave One. And I was noticed. We were reading this junior novelization. Boba Fett's ship is referred to several times, never by name. Either by a character or in the narration.
But this doesn't surprise me. Well, this is also a Disney
so I'm just saying that this goes back further than people think.
Well, I mean, this goes back before the Disney buyout. Disney had an issue with this before, using the term slave, because Disney put out these are Disney Park exclusive action figures where they take Disney characters and they put them in Star Wars outfits and they sell them at the end of Star Tours. One of the ones they produced is Minnie Mouse in Slave Leia costume. And on the packaging, it said in slave outfit. And this figure was pulled almost immediately after it was produced because it had slave on the packaging. It's actually sort of a rare figure.
That's more than reasonable that they phased out that branding, I would say. Mm-hmm. For that, even though obviously she was being held as a slave by Jabba, it's descriptive. But I would say, in general, you don't want to sell outfits to young girls to call them slaves.
I also don't think you want to label Minnie Mouse as a slave either. That's also.
Well, I mean,
she's a slave for Mickey.
I'd say that maybe goes beyond the labeling. I mean, if you're gonna because that is the context in Return of the Jedi. So maybe don't buy maybe don't put Minnie Mouse in a slave outfit.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't be like, well, this is an iconic moment because a bunch of horny teen boys for 30 years were obsessed with it. So that means. But that doesn't mean it should be just one of the stock obvious Star Wars branding things whatever. Anyway, regardless, the Slave One, I'm just saying, in stuff that was geared towards younger Star Wars fans, for now we're talking about 25 years at least, the term Slave One has been not used way before Disney Association. I'm just saying, all these dang like losers on the internet need to chill the fuck out. It's a Lego set. You can call it Slave One.
I just checked. Slave One is still canon according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's still called that in the universe. It's just not going to be used in marketing material.
Yeah.
No shit.
I think I got it. It's very funny. I'm looking at your notes, Sim, and you refer to it as Slave One Erasure, and that's hilarious.
I said Boba Fett's ship, Slave One Erasure, goes back this far? Question mark. Anyway, so at this point they try catching Boba Fett, but the Empire gets in the way. There's a
and not only does the Empire get in the way, but they lose Dix too.
Dix, yeah, one of
Dix, Dix. That's it's a new pilot. There, he starts talking, and then of course he dies. So he's our big loss. Also, there's a part earlier in the book I want to discuss, and it's when Luke shows. And I don't want to say when Luke shows up, but when Luke meets all the other characters of the series. So. "Hey, Luke," Lando said. Chewbacca added what had to be a greeting. "Master Luke, it's so good to see you again," 3PO said. Even R2 whistled a happy greeting. They all liked Luke. There was something about him. Maybe it was the Force flowing through him. Maybe it was just because he seemed so good.
He is so good.
So good.
So, yeah, I actually that's even though that I agree that is goofy, but just listen to that. Professor Hack Hard Drive is incapable of writing anything that good. So anyway, that winds up being kind of a dead end going after Boba Fett. So they split back up and and Leia's like, "Luke, go back to Tatooine." And then she kind of on the low is like, this Dash guy, he can protect Luke from afar. So she sends Dash off to Tatooine without telling Luke to be his bodyguard, basically. Because oh yeah, by the way, an astromech droid in that battle where they tried to get Boba Fett, one of the astromech droids in the Rogue Squadron X-Wing tries to sabotage Luke, basically, and kill him.
And then that sets up for Leia wanting to figure out who is trying to kill Luke.
And they all think it's Vader.
Right, but that doesn't sit right with Leia or something. So, but she then cons Lando. She's like, "I want to talk to the Black Sun. I know they have an elite spy network, and they could figure out who it is." However, meanwhile, so Luke's on Tatooine. Luke gets attacked by some swoop riders in a swoop rider gang, and he gets saved by Dash Rendar. This I remember is in the video game. This scene, the swoop riding, is in the video game, and it's at this time where he explains that, oh yeah, she's trying to meet with the Black Sun, and Luke's like, well, that's a bad idea. They're a criminal organization. But then he gets a message that's intended for Leia from the Bothan spy network, and they're like, hey, this is for Leia, I need to see you immediately. And Luke goes, well, I guess we'll go in her place. So that to me was kind of silly that okay, she's already has connections with the Bothan spy network. Why wouldn't she check with them before she tries to get involved with the Black Sun? But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the way that's written is different in the adult novel. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's been too long.
But so they,
I want to note here, Dan. I have not seen you eat your oatmeal yet.
Oh, I already ate it. Like a while.
Oh, you already ate it. Okay.
Yeah.
You can go back and hear him eating it. Probably.
Okay.
Get over it, everybody, etc.
Just wanted to make sure.
I finished that a long time ago.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't getting cold. You weren't trying to save it.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah.
So yeah, and so Lando, Leia, Chewbacca, they head off to try to find a meeting with the head of Black Sun, who is Prince Shizor, by the way. And Luke, so when Luke discovers that Dash has been protecting him. He's like, what the fuck is this all about? And then I'm trying to remember exactly why he wants to do this, but he wants to figure out where Leia is, so he like hacks into her computer and guesses her password.
No, this is when he gets that message from the Bothans.
Oh, he gets the message from the Bothans, and in order to access the message, he needs Leia's password, and he guesses her password, which is Alderaan. Come on, Leia. Like, that's a 1996 level password.
The funny thing is, he first guesses, this is so funny, his first guess is Luke, as in, like, she's so obsessed with him that she would make her password Luke Skywalker.
Well, Luke is obviously obsessed with Leia, as we know at this point. He doesn't know yet, you know. So, so anyway, when he gets that information, he wants to give Leia that information from the Bothans, so him and Dash go off trying to find her. They go back to the Rebel base. They find out that Leia is gone. They don't know why Leia is gone, so they have to go find her. And so the story is basically is on two tracks, where Leia's trying to figure out how to get a meeting with Prince Xizor, and Luke is looking for Leia at this point. And by the way, Lando wasn't with Leia, because Lando teams up with Luke and Dash, I believe, at a certain point. So, this book, Shadows of the Empire, is fairly famous, or infamous, for the scene in which Leia meets Prince Xizor, and in which he attempts to seduce her. Which I was curious how it was going to be handled in a junior novelization, because in my memory, at least, and who knows, I read this book a long time ago, but in my memory, that scene is, for a Star Wars novel, fairly explicit. And
I remember that too.
It doesn't feel like a particularly neutered version of the scene to me. It just feels like kind of some details left out.
I'm surprised they left in that detail at all. They could have maybe done it without.
Yeah, it's basically like Xizor. Well, an interesting thing when I was doing a little research, by the way, is that Steve Perry was asked, the publisher, so Bantam was like, Leia should go through with, Leia should be seduced by Xizor. They wanted it to happen, and apparently Steve Perry was just like, nice try.
No, that's ridiculous.
He's like, the fans would be so pissed.
They would
be very, very
rightfully so. That's ridiculous. It goes against everything the character stands for.
Well, the idea being actually that it would have been, because he uses some weird pheromone thing.
Yeah. So, Paulines have pheromones that
make him irresistible.
Yeah. So the idea being essentially that he would rape Leia, which is not any better.
A little much, don't you think, for a Star Wars book?
Just a little, for a series that only doesn't go further than a kiss, like that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I'm very glad that didn't happen, but she's basically like, as far as it goes, is that she's just like, oh, he is very attractive. I'm compelled by him, and then she kind of is able to snap at him and be
the adult novel goes into detail about how she is the pheromones are doing their work physically on her, but she's strong-willed and is able to resist him anyway.
It's kind of they kind of don't shy that much away from that, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, because they talk about the pheromones a lot, and Leia just thinks it's the tea.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then Chewbacca shows up. And Chewbacca, he's like, hey, something's going on here. And then she goes back inside. But now that she knows something is up, because she's when she's with Chewbacca, she gets that breath of fresh air, and that pheromone air. And then she's just like, something's up here. I can resist this now. So
that's pretty much what happens, as I recall.
And the kind of parallel track of this book is the whole time is that Vader knows that Prince Xizor is scheming, doing some sort of, is up to something, and the Emperor keeps sending Vader on these little missions that Xizor suggests, and so Vader's pissed about that, and he eventually figures out that Xizor knows who he is and is trying to kill Luke. So this all eventually culminates where Lando And Leia resists Shizor, but she gets kind of locked away in a prison cell.
Yes.
So
and there's a whole bit too where Luke, so Luke goes to the Bothans, and they're like, there's this computer that we know is being transported. It's in a manure truck, basically.
Right.
And then Luke leads the Bothans. They try to take the thing. They eventually do, at the loss of a lot of Bothan lives, as Mon Mothma later recounts. And they get the computer, and it's the Death Star plans, but Luke never actually finds out about this, because as they're trying to open the computer up, they get attacked by some that's Klaatu, Nikto, and Barada from Jabba's palace, who attack, and they take Luke prisoner, and then Luke manages to weasel his way out of this using the Force, some Jedi mind tricks, and then he escapes, and then Vader shows up later, and he grills one of them for information about the fact that it's Caesar who hired them, and Vader spares them. He's just like, well, these guys are pathetic. I don't have to kill them. So
yeah, it's basically they come to the Black Sun headquarters. They get there and have to rescue Leia.
They have to go through the sewers.
They go through the sewers, and we don't need to do the beat by beat thing. It's a big action sequence that ends the book, where they have to go up the tower, find her, and they break her out, and all this. But we didn't really talk about what's her face, the android woman.
Oh, Guri.
Mm-hmm. She's Shizor's assistant, basically.
Yeah, I would say his right hand person.
Yeah, and she's this realistic droid. It has an official name, I think.
Human replica droid.
Yeah,
something close to that.
Similar to that robot they had of Leia in the Jedi Prid series.
Oh,
the one that I think may have killed Trioculus.
Oh yeah.
She shot Trioculus. Yeah.
So she's been around this whole time, but she's not of much significance till near the end.
She also cost 6 million credits. That's how much Caesar spent on her. That book says that.
That feels low, honestly, for something like that.
Yeah, it didn't seem.
Well, what's the value of a credit?
Yeah, is a credit equivalent to $1? Probably not. Anyway, so they basically they get there and they have to escape, and they have to they confront Shizor, who's I'm trying to remember the exact sequence here.
Okay, so his guards aren't doing anything, so he's just like, well, if I got to do it, I got to do it myself. So he gets his blaster. Two of the groups meet on the 20th floor, and there's a shootout, and Caesar's firing, and he fires, and Luke deflects everything, and he's just like, oh, he's too fast. And Guri goes, well, he is the son of Darth Vader. Yeah, come on, my dude. And then he's like, all right, let's regroup. And then Lando pulls out thermal detonators. And then this is actually funny. Leia takes one of them, and because also at this point she had to go into disguise, a bounty hunter disguise.
Bush,
yeah, Bush. This is where she gets the disguise from, and she takes one of the thermal detonators, just like, this might be useful later, and then tucks it away.
Well, actually, I read, by the way, that because the third audio drama, the Return of the Jedi audio drama, for some reason wasn't produced until 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, Brian Daley, who wrote that, R.I.P. the legend, Brian Daley wrote references to shadows into that audio drama.
Oh, that's awesome!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I haven't listened to that, but yeah.
In the novel, much is made of. You mentioned Luke deflecting all those blaster bolts. A lot is made of that in the original novel. It's kind of like it's like the first time he's doing that. And it talks about how it feels like time is slowing down for him. It's a very Neo at the end of the Matrix kind of moment.
That's how this scene reads, so it is very in line with that.
It's there's a lot made of like, because the end of the book, which is like about how he's like, he's not a Jedi Master yet, but he's a Jedi Knight, and that's good enough. You know, he feels more confident in his abilities.
Well, that's the thing too, because he comes out with the thermal detonator, and he's like, "I'm gonna blow the building up if you don't let me and my friends escape." And Caesar is just like, "Okay, you're good to go." And then this made me laugh. Lando, then, as they're walking out, takes a thermal detonator, opens up a garbage chute, and tosses it down. He's like, this guy just let you go free, and you still blow up his castle anyway, basically. And this is also the leader of the Black Sun, who Lando is afraid of at the beginning of this book. He's like, hey, I don't think we should get involved with the Black Sun. But he has no qualms as to just destroying the whole castle.
So. Well, he has like a hilarious moment where it's like, yeah, like it's like all those people have to get out of here. He's just like, they got a few minutes, like, and like Luke's like, that's cold, and he's just like, you choose a criminal's life, like this is the wager you make or whatever, something like that. Which and is then cool.
Luke and Guri have a battle because Guri's
like, this guy, like I can defeat puny humans so easily, but like. This guy is like a Jedi. I gotta try this, you know.
And she fails, and Luke spares her. Luke tries to sway her and get her to come over to the Alliance, but fails at this.
There was the only kind of follow-up to Shadows there was a comics miniseries a year or two later about Guri, like after this, I believe. But the problem is that I guess because they planned initially there was going to be a sequel to Shadows, or a prequel maybe, about some of the Shadows characters, but because the license switched from Bantam to Del Rey, they just wanted to like do a clean slate, new projects and stuff.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so when they do get off, both our heroes and Shizor are able to escape the tower before it begins to collapse. And
also, too, this, I think, would have been very fun if this was a movie, but R2-D2 and C-3PO fly the Falcon.
Oh, yeah, they have to fly the Falcon and meet them at like, the halfway point. Like
the book doesn't, like, have any actual scenes of them on the Falcon, but I just picture, like, if this was a movie, how delightful those scenes would have been, and, like, the fact that, like, 3PO would think he's the one flying of the ship, when really it's R2 who's doing all the work, but yet he is just shitting on R2 left and right, so
they, but then they do get out into space, and Vader knows everything that's going on, and Vader, so the executor, I believe, his Star Destroyer is there, and Shizor is in his ship chasing after the Falcon, and Shizor seems like he's going to overpower them in some way, but then Vader's just like, fuck Shizor, and he orders the executor to shoot Shizor's ship out of space, blowing it up, and essentially saving Luke's life. And this was just cool because this leads right into Return of the Jedi. Basically. Very like for his character, it's a very nice one.
And also too, in the video game. The video game ends on a big space battle where you're in the Outrider, and there's the big explosion, and basically there's 4 difficulties of the video game, if I remember correctly: easy, medium, hard, and very hard. And in all of the first 3 difficulties, it ends with Dash Rendar dying. And, the explosion goes off, he sacrifices himself, but if you beat it on very hard, it unlocked a secret cutscene where you see the Outrider flying away, implying that Dash Rendar is alive. And as we said, he shows up in a Galaxy of Fear book, but that's all he shows up in. Dash Rendar is never seen again, really, within the EU.
There's actually
there's
a novel called Shadow Games,
Okay.
where that actually came out in 2012. It's one of the
Okay.
last Legends books.
Okay.
And Dash is the main character of that book.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of like a crime noir type deal where he's got to like help like a lounge singer like lady who's in distress, and it's a pretty fun book.
And that one's written by what's his name?
Matt Reeves.
No, not is that his name? Matt Reeves.
Matthew Reeves.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Yeah, I know, not the director, Matt
now
Reeves.
I'm confused. Yeah, but anyway, but that guy though, now that yes, he wrote on Gargoyles, and so did Steve Perry. So they must have known each other from that.
Not the Journey frontman, Steve Perry.
Yes.
Not Journey frontman Steve Perry.
Steve Perry, the writer of the adult novel Shadows of the Empire. So they must have known each other, and that's why Matthew Reeves, I believe is how he is.
Yeah, that's how he.
Matthew Reeves must have been like, oh well, let's bring back my Gargoyles buddies character.
And
yeah.
I will add this: Dash Rendar, according to Wikipedia, and this is published. Dash is in the canon currently. Dash was brought back into canon in a mention in the solo tie-in book Tales from Vandor, written by Jason Fry. And Jason Fry, this is a book that brings Dash Rendar back into canon, and it also mentions Chewbacca's family. So it brings his family back into canon, too. Now, nothing's been done with any of these characters since, but it is...
Well, the Outlander is in Solo, I believe, right?
The Outrider?
The Outrider, yeah.
Let me look at this. Let's see here, because I have Dash's Wikipedia page pulled up. And you are right, Dan. There is no consistency to like how he looks. And what the funniest one is, in my opinion, is like they got an actor and they dressed him up with the big shoulder pads.
Well, that's probably for the trading card.
It was.
Yeah, and that guy looks so silly.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The Outrider. Let's get the canon tab here. Okay, it is canon, and behind the scenes, well, it doesn't show up in Solo, but it does show up in the special edition.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So it's always been canon.
Oh yeah, because it's in the special
Mos Eisley Spaceport.
Yeah, that doesn't make Dash canon. I guess Dash wasn't canonized until the canonization process for Dash wasn't finished until Jason Fry brought him back in that tie-in book. So
yes, it would be fun for him to come back in some way. It would be very fun. So
this, and the book basically, by the way, ends with Luke, with everyone returning to Tatooine to plan the beginning of Jedi, and Luke even recording his message that he's putting in R2 for Jabba.
Also, do you remember that bounty hunter guy who hangs out with Din Djarin in the Tatooine episode in season 1 of Mando?
Yes.
I remember that guy having like shoulder pads, and like me thinking initially was like, could this guy be Dash Rendar? Because like had a very Dash feel to him, but I know he's not. So.
I love that you just call the Mandalorian Din Djarin, like we all know that. We all call him that.
That's his name.
I've transferred fully to Grogu, but I have yet to.
Din and Grogu. What are you talking
about? Din. I know the name, but I just I didn't have to look that up or anything. But
when I say the Mandalorian, I could be talking about any character, really. There's all sorts of characters I could be talking about. I need to be specific so our listeners know. So
I'm sure the listeners know. I think it's funny.
It's just is he talking about Sabine?
I feel like weirdly, considering that you'd think Grogu would not have pierced the consciousness as much because people called him Baby Yoda for so long outside. I feel like that has now people do call him Grogu more. But I feel like even though we've known his name is Din since the end of season 1, no one calls him that. I feel like they just call him Mando. I feel like.
I think you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
But I like his name.
Sure,
I like his name.
No one calls him that either, though. In the show,
no one calls Sheev Palpatine Sheev, but I call him Sheev every time.
I always call him Sheev.
Okay, I'm not arguing against using his name. I'm just saying the reason I think that people probably don't use it as much is because nobody calls him Din in the show, whereas
nobody calls Lottie Conan either, but I always got to call him Conan every time.
Yes, okay, Grogu, though, once his name was revealed, is referred to as Grogu for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
it's
by
because
the
it's
other
such
characters.
I think it's a more satisfying name than Din Djarin. Like,
Yeah.
the reveal of Grogu is just like, oh, damn.
I
this
can't
name's
believe
good.
they nailed that name. It's
Yeah.
crazy that they nailed that name. Like, I feel like that's insane. Because you're talking about, like, over a year of people calling him Baby Yoda and then trying to force the child on everybody. And then, like, but no, it's like Grogu, and everybody's just like, you know what? Grogu, absolutely.
That name works. That name is
Anyway.
really good.
Back to Shadows, and we can wrap up, I guess. I don't know how to rate this book as it is. Like, Shadows as a project, in terms of my level of fondness, is conceived in midichlorians. I love Shadows of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
As an individual entity, the junior novel is certainly not like top tier in terms of what we've read, although the story itself is among the more compelling stories we've read for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But this is nowhere near the best version of it. And if you want to experience Shadows of the Empire, I suggest reading the adult novel or even playing the video game. You know, the comics are probably better. This is exclusively for like kids under 7 who don't want to read a big boy book. So like I didn't read it when I was a kid. I read the novel and I was fairly young. So
Same. I did the same.
So I get why it exists from the marketing level, that they were like, we got to blast this out. This is the way we'd market a full scale movie to a full scale marketing campaign, and that would include a junior novel. But it feels like the most ancillary element of the whole thing, and as evidenced by the fact that the behind-the-scenes book fails to mention the junior novel at all. So I would say the story is conceived in midichlorians. The experience was fun reading it, revisiting it in an abridged form, but the book itself is like a 6.5.
I agree with that. I was going to say 6 or 7, so right in there. So it's fine. It's just fine. You know, it's not like not Jude on any level.
Oh, sure,
so.
yeah, no shit.
Or Fry. It's not Fry either.
Yeah,
so.
Jason. We gotta be overly familiar with him too. Anyway, so Dan, you didn't read this junior novel, but do you have any kind of overall final thoughts on what Shadows is, the legacy of Shadows of the Empire, all that stuff?
I loved this when I was a kid. Like, it was just a really cool time to be a Star Wars fan. When I always liked Star Wars from when I was like 5, but when they did all this Shadows of the Empire stuff, that's when I got into the expanded universe and started, watching my tapes of the Star Wars movies every single day ad infinitum, and became like an obsessive fan. I actually was reflecting earlier when I was thinking about this that I would love to have been the age I am now when all this was happening, to just like be able to absorb all of that. Plus they had that role-playing game supplement, and I actually have friends now, so I could have played that, but yeah, no, it's super cool stuff. I would love it if they did something like that again, honestly.
I agree with you, because this is undoubtedly a success. The whole project was absolutely successful.
The only thing that they kind of did similarly ever was the Clone Wars multimedia project.
Yeah, that sucks, though.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but between 2 and 3, there's some good stuff. I mean, you got the Gendy, Tartakovsky, Clone Wars.
And I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, Shatterpoint rules. Matthew Stover is one of the best, prose stylists to ever write a Star Wars book, and a story starring Mace Windu that's based on Heart of Darkness. Awesome.
Yeah. But they didn't do it. They did too many books, and it was too spread thin, I think, the Clone Wars one. So they had I would love if they just focus and are we got to make the best standalone Star Wars novel that will then spawn a video game, spawn a whole toy line, do the whole blow it out again like this.
Well,
I would love for them to do that.
I would think it would work with Mando. in my opinion.
Well, yeah,
like,
but that's not
like a prequel series to
that
Mando.
is the flagship of Star Wars at this point. That's not the same thing. I feel like.
Well, where would you set it? Where would
where would I set like a standalone book you're talking about? Okay, well, the other problem here, I will say, is that there's always Star Wars stuff now. So it doesn't really, it can't function the way that this did, where it's like a movie without a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's always Star Wars TV, and there's going to be more movies and all that stuff. So, but as far as I would love for them to put a lot of energy into focusing on one book or one like big story that's like very self-contained. It could be involved in that period, the post-Jedi period that Mando set. That's fine with me. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It doesn't.
They should do it with High Republic.
I mean, High Republic is like a whole line.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually, again, I've liked what I've read of High Republic so far, outside of the book we reviewed for this class. It feels like a class for this podcast.
It is an endless weekly book report assignment, in my opinion.
I didn't love the young readers book that we had to read for this, but I did really like Light of the Jedi, the adult novel that launched it. I would have to catch up with it, but again, for the listeners that don't know, I never feel like reading Star Wars outside this podcast.
Wait, is the Light of the Jedi the Claudia Gray book?
No, Light of the Jedi is the Charles Soule adult novel.
Oh, okay.
I have the Claudia Gray book, Into the Dark, which is a young adult book, so it doesn't qualify for our show.
I just didn't know if you read that one or not.
I haven't read it yet.
You said you were going to read everything when we covered the High Republic. You were like, I'm going in on this, including the comic books.
I wanted to go in, and I was just like, you know what? I have a weekly commitment to read a Star Wars book, and I want to read things that aren't Star Wars. But, maybe after the podcast ends, then I will catch up on High Republic, and then we can do a bonus episode that we drop months after the end of the show, and I'll talk about it. All right, so this was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dan, for coming on.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Are you all right?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fine.
You seem very short and clipped.
Oh, no, I'm just not sure how much I was able to really contribute.
Yeah, it was fun having you. You got to talk shit about both of us. Always a good time to have you on, and we'll have you on in a more serious fashion not too long from now.
You're not our friend. You're our enemy.
Enemy of the show.
All right, so next week, a couple notes here. Next week's episode will be out on Saturday to accommodate our guest's schedule. Our guest, Franco, a friend of ours, we're reviewing The Strange Case of Origami Yoda. We're not doing this whole series of books. We're just doing the first one. But we're going to have him on, and we're going to talk about that book, and we're going to talk about his kid who's currently getting into Star Wars as we speak, which is great because Franco's not a big Star Wars fan, so we're going to make fun of him about that.
And we'll talk about this too, but I remember on his show, we'll get onto it on his show.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But anyway, and we're also, because he loves movies and isn't a huge Star Wars fan, we're going to also talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. So even though we said we're recommitting to Star Wars content, we are still going to be ourselves and talk about other shit sometimes, and that's going to be one of the times. So next week is a loaded-ass episode. We're doing a movie review. We have a wide-spanning, freewheeling conversation about introducing Star Wars to the next generation, and we're, of course, going to talk about The Strange Case of Origami Yoda. There is all kinds of material to be covered next week. But it'll be out on Saturday to accommodate.
I can't wait for you to actually read the back of this book, Tim, because the back, the plot description
it's very long, yeah.
It's 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, it's very long. It'll be good. Meet Dwight, a 6th grade oddball. Dwight goes on, etc. We will move on.
Will they like Strangers on a Train? Stay tuned.
We all have seen it before, but we're going to have an elongated conversation about it. It'll be good. All right, so come back for that next week. That'll be on Saturday next week. So make sure don't worry. Like when you don't even see a Tim Recommends in your feed on Friday morning. And,
at this point, they don't even worry if an episode doesn't show up on Thursday. They're just like, I guess there's no episode this week.
But yeah, it'll be on
and
Saturday,
until the books are due back.
The library is closed.
Until the books are due back on Saturday.
The library is closed. It's closed.
Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Padawan Library is copyright 2021. Tim May and Levi Peretic. All rights reserved.